Hi, everyone. It's Alyssa, and I hope everybody is doing well. So, now that we are sadly at the end of the summer, I thought it would be kind of nice to look at what is playing on Kanopy and what would be my top 10 favorite movies to watch at that end of summer kind of moment. So, end of August, beginning of September, they all have a real kind of vibe where it can be really beautiful, but maybe there's like an air of sadness to it. I feel like that's sort of the direction that I go in. And we're already having a visitor, my little kitty, come up. So we'll see if she jumps into the frame. But I really love the Canopy app because everybody has access to it. So if you don't know what that is, I know I talk about it a lot, but that's the movie streaming service that you can get through your library. It's free as long as you have a library card. From speaking to some of you, I've realized I think it's different the amount of views that you get per month based on what your library is subscribing to. So my library, once the pandemic hit, we got 20 views per month, but now it's still 20 views per month. That is Loki. You will hear her. She is very vocal right now. But a lot of people said they only have 4 views a month. So I don't know. I guess it just depends on what your library is. But I love this because everybody has access to it. So I'm going to start. This is just in alphabetical order. So I'm going to start with number one. You're going to see I really go back and forth with a lot that's more contemporary in the 50s. I don't know what was getting made, in the 50s that it has this kind of like beautiful but kind of wistful quality, but there is definitely something about it. So I'm going to start in 1957 with 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet, and it stars Henry Fonda. Everybody knows this movie, and I think almost everyone has seen this movie. I just could not put it on the list because it is what I think of when I think of the end of summer. It's that kind of like uncomfortable, humid feeling. You're in a closed location with 12 jurors that's trying to decide the fate of this teenage kid and whether he murdered this person or not. And of course, Henry Fonda is the character who really wants to take the time and look at the evidence. And while those things might sound like, all right, it's going to be a little procedural, it's very talky, it is so exciting. And even though you're just in one closed location, Sidney Lumet doesn't let the tension stop for a second. I still have like just these images of looking out the window and seeing what like the temperature is and really quick cuts and all of these different angles. So this is not shot in a very straightforward way. I think it has a lot of style to it. And the dialogue alone, I mean, you have to be just interested in the dialogue alone, but they don't forget about the visual aspect of this, which you definitely could forget about that kind of thing in a kind of closed set location. So number one, 12 Angry Men. Number two, and you're going to keep seeing me come over here and looking and saying, because I have my whole chart set up for all of the movies, is Beyond the Lights, which was done in 2014. And that is directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. And she did The Woman King. She did Love and Basketball. The movie stars Gugu Mbatha-Raw and Nate Parker. This is just a love story, but it is a love story. It's not funny. There's no romantic comedy. It is a serious love story that starts off in a pretty serious way. So the premise of the movie, if you have not seen it, is Gugu Mbatha-Raw plays a really famous pop star. She's in a relationship with, I forget the character's name, but it's Machine Gun Kelly, which, why? But anyway, she's treated very poorly in that relationship. It's really for the cameras, that kind of a thing. And she's just so depressed about her life and where she is. And even though she has all of this fame, she's not singing the kind of music that she wants to sing. She doesn't feel like herself. It's got Minnie Driver. She plays her mother, and she really controls what her daughter is singing, what her image is, and her daughter just doesn't want any of this. So you get to a point where she does, this is in the very beginning of the movie, so not really a spoiler. She tries to commit suicide, but then this police officer who was, I don't remember if he was like assigned to the room or not, but he goes in as security, sees her, stops her, and then that's where the romance kind of starts. And it is real and genuine and sweet, and I think it's a really underrated movie. And if you're looking for a romance, I think this is a good romantic movie. All right, next up, number 3 is Big Night from 1996, and that is directed by Campbell Scott and Stanley Tucci. So I don't think I ever talk about, one, how much I love Big Night. Big Night is one of those movies that made me love movies. Like, I remember seeing this in the movie theater, I think 3 times. I was obsessed with it. The relationship between the brothers, the timpano reveal at the end. So before I get into all of that, the movie stars Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub. They play brothers. This movie also has Minnie Driver, Isabella Rossellini. So it is during a time when the two brothers have a restaurant and the restaurant isn't doing that well. They serve really authentic Italian food, and the restaurant next door, which is also an Italian restaurant, will just say they're serving inauthentic Italian food, and they're doing spectacularly well. Whereas the brothers, who are doing this amazing food because they're not super flashy and showy, they are failing. So automatically I am connecting to these brothers and their like quest for, this perfection in Italian cuisine. But really, Stanley Tucci plays the younger brother, Segundo, and he's at the point where he's like, no, we need to make money. You need to not be so strict with what this menu should be. And so the restaurant owner from next door, who's played by Ian Holm, says, you know what? I'm friends with Louis Prima, the singer. Why don't we have him come over? He'll go to your restaurant. It'll get you a ton of media, a ton of attention. And then it'll save the restaurant, essentially. So they're basically preparing for this big night. But amidst all of it, there's a lot with Stanley Tucci and his girlfriend, and we'll say another character that he gets involved with. And there's so much between the dynamics with the two brothers. This is such an Italian movie. And I mean, like, actually an Italian movie and not a mafia movie. So being 100% Italian, there are so few films that I feel represent what it actually feels like to be a part of that culture in some kind of a way. And this movie does that for me. And I love that it is written by Stanley Tucci, who does not love Stanley Tucci right now. And so you can see I'm very excited over this one. I would highly recommend it. I have this one on Blu-ray, but it's great that it is currently playing on Kanopy so that you can see it there. It also has such like a summery feeling because it's just so warm and nurturing because of all of the food that you're surrounded by. Also, if you just like watching people make food, like watching the brothers just make eggs in this movie is entertaining. And I don't know how they do it, but it really, truly, honestly is. All right, number 4 is The Florida Project from 2017, directed by Sean Baker, and it stars William Dafoe as the one main actor, but then the other actresses are Brooklyn Kimberly Prince and Bria Vinete, who play Monet and Hallie, respectively. I'm thinking most people have seen this movie already, but it really is, I mean, it is Florida. So it's any movie that takes place in Florida, I'm automatically watching that at the end of August. It just feels right. But it is such a realistic feeling movie about a mother who's just trying to raise her daughter in what is essentially a motel off of, I'm pretty sure, is it I-4? It's very close to Disney World. I've driven past this area many, many times. And it just has this juxtaposition of, you have all of these families that are spending all of this money, and you have this dream vacation, and then just a few miles outside of that, there are people who are really struggling. So you see this mother trying to raise the daughter, but it's all from the perspective of the daughter, from Monet. Like, that's what makes it so great. The camera is always at her level. You're seeing everything from her perspective. She doesn't realize she's poor. She doesn't realize any of these things because she's just a kid and she's having fun. And the movie is really funny. And I would definitely say this is my favorite movie from Sean Baker. I really like Tangerine. I had some issues with Red Rocket. I did not like it as much as I thought I was going to like it. I saw Palm Trees and Power Lines recently, and I felt like that's the way that kind of story should have gone, not in such a, I don't know. I just didn't feel comfortable watching Red Rocket that much. But I do love the Florida Project, and the end of this movie. Oh my God, it will just rip your entire heart out. So definitely the Florida Project if you haven't seen it. Next up, number 5, Hearts Beat Loud from 2018. This is directed by Brett Haley, and it stars Nick Offerman and Kiersey Clemens. And this is just, out of almost all the movies here, this is the movie that just makes you feel good. And it's about a father-daughter relationship. She's lost her mother, but the connection they have is through music. They write this one song that it's like an indie song, but it actually turns into a hit. And the dad wants to keep making music with her, but this is the summer before she goes away to college. So it really has that sort of like end of August feeling when kids are going off to school and she wants to take the next step in her life. But in a weird way, her dad almost wants her to stay and not go and, you know, not necessarily hold her back, but have this thing that they can do together because he doesn't want to lose her because he's already lost his wife. And it's just, it's so not, it's, but it's not just heartbreaking. It is so sweet and it is so kind and it is so genuine, but it is not saccharine at all. And the music is really, really good as well. It's not like cheesy music. It's more of like indie music. And Nick Offerman, who I just love in anything, anyway, he is so spot on perfect in this one movie. Next up, when I think of the summer, especially the end of the summer, I think of heist movies. And for me, I just love Logan Lucky. There is something about this movie. It was made 2017 by Steven Soderbergh. It just has the right cast for me. I love heist movies. That's like one of my genres. I will always watch heist movies when they come out. Like, of course, I love The Killing, but what I love about this is how funny this movie is. And Daniel Craig is so funny in it. So it stars Daniel Craig, Channing Tatum, Riley Keough, Adam Driver. So it's just like a really, for me, this is a really great cast and they really play off of each other well. I think the heist is good. They really use humor quite a bit. The end, I'm not 100% crazy about, but it takes place at NASCAR. So it's kind of a different location than what you would expect for a heist movie. So it's just that one little bit different. And Steven Soderbergh for me is kind of up or down. Like sometimes I definitely love his movies, and then sometimes I don't necessarily feel a connection to them. Like I've seen Unsane twice and I kind of like it, but I also kind of don't connect to it. So, and then High Flying Bird was okay. So he's definitely up and down for me, but I thought this was a really well-made heist movie, and obviously it should be good because he did the Ocean's 11 movie. But I just really love the chemistry of this particular cast. All right, number 7. I actually saw this movie today for the first time because I was so certain that it would be on my list, and it absolutely is. So this is from 1953, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, directed by Jacques Tati and starring Jacques Tati. And this is the first movie I've ever seen from Tati. And at first I was a little bit surprised because I'm like, wait, there's like no plot in this movie at all. He's just on vacation and he's very like clumsy and he is like a whirlwind for a lot of the guests. And from the second he enters and he opens the door and he brings all of this wind in and everything in the restaurant is just going all over the place. It was such a sweet movie. And I loved that Hulot was not a mean character at all. Now, here's my problem with slapstick. One of the things, like, I can like slapstick, but I don't always like it, is because I think it feels a little mean at times. Like, the character can feel mean. I know this is not great, don't love the Marx Brothers. There is and I've only seen one movie, but that one movie really affected me in the sense Duck Soup, where I was like, well, this is just like straight up mean. Like, this is like a lot of insulting comedy. And I don't like that. And I loved that this was just such a slice of life. And it wasn't just Hulot, who is kind of an oddball. It was like everyone was like, they were trying to hide how oddball they actually are. And everyone's trying to follow the rules and be the perfect person. And they care about politics and this and that. But like, I loved the freedom that he brings to the character and just the ability to want to dance to music when everyone else is trying to be serious. And he feels like a child in the best possible way, like still has that sense of play. And it was weird because in the beginning I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a little bit boring. It took about 10 minutes to get to the beach. But once I sort of settled in, I was like, oh, wait, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be like a series of incidents and then the vacation's going to be over and that's it. And once I realized this was very much like a vibey movie, I just kind of sat back, took it all in, and it has that perfect. This movie is not necessarily the end of the summer. I mean, the movie ends and it's the end of the summer, but I feel like you could watch this in July and August. It just is really sweet and funny and a lot of memorable moments. My favorite being that dancing scene. But I'm definitely going to watch the rest of his films. They're on Kanopy, but they're also, so if you don't want to waste a credit, I know that it's playing on, I'm still calling it HBO Max. There's no way I'm not. I don't even like calling it HBO Max. I just like saying HBO. And then it's also on Criterion, the Criterion channel right now. So highly recommend. Next up, this is the only movie that is leaving at the end of August. So hopefully you see this beforehand or you grab the 4K edition that just came out, which I will absolutely do. So it's Roman Holiday, 1953, also directed by William Wyler. And this is just a classic. I feel like almost everyone would have seen this movie, starring Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. This is what made Audrey Hepburn a movie star. She is so perfect in this movie because she's not just like this perfect princess. She has a curiosity about her, and that's what actually makes her character so incredibly interesting. So it's about a princess who's going on a European tour. She's not feeling well. She gets like an injection from her doctor to help her feel better. She ends up leaving the room she's supposed to be in, and Gregory Peck finds her, and it looks like she's drunk and she doesn't look like a princess. And he ends up just taking her around Rome, and it's that perfect kind of romance. I feel like anything you'll see, there's a few connections to Italy in the movies that I'm picking for sure, because in my brain, I connect Italy with like the end of the summer and that feeling of like happiness and beauty, but also like the end of something. So I love Roman Holiday. I will actually get the 4K of this because every time I've ever seen Roman Holiday, I thought the quality of the film was just okay. And I think that 4K, or I'm hoping that 4K upgrade with a movie from 1953 is just going to be perfect. So if you want, you could get that as well. All right, sticking with the whole Italy theme for the next two movies. So number 9 is Summertime. That was made in 1955 by David Lean, and it stars Katharine Hepburn, who is my absolute favorite, and Rosanna Brazzi, or Rosanna Brazzi. I saw this for the first time just a few weeks ago, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it was, for me, an immediate masterpiece because I love a strong Katharine Hepburn. I just saw her in Adam's Rib, and that is a strong Katharine Hepburn. But I love when you see Katharine Hepburn, and underneath there is sort of like an uncertainty. She's trying to act strong, but she's actually not incredibly sure about herself, and she's self-conscious. So in this movie, she's a little bit older. She's going to Venice on a holiday, and she is excited to go, and she's excited to be there and be independent and be on her own, but there's still a part of her, because she never got married, she didn't have kids, where you can feel she wants to experience this trip with someone else and have that kind of an experience. And she ends up meeting this man, and of course they fall in love, but it's not 100% what she wants it to be. She finds out something about him, and it makes everything sort of bittersweet. This is actually the movie that David Lean, who did literally Lawrence of Arabia, this is his favorite movie that he's ever made. So I feel like that says something. I connect to sort of the introversion or the things that are unsaid in this story, and I feel like there is a lot going on just with like facial expressions and looks, and plus the movie is stunning. It is to die for. It makes Venice look just, it's always a sunset. It always looks like there is a sunset in Venice in this movie, and it's beautiful, it's romantic, it's wistful, it's a little bit somber. I loved everything about it. And then the last movie on the list, I believe, is from 1963. Didn't write this one down. Was Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow by Vittorio De Sica. And of course, it stars Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni. And it is such a different kind of film in the sense of it's like three separate stories, and you get three very different types of women in Italy, but all three different women are played by Sophia Loren, and then all the three different men are played by Marcello Mastroianni. And it's just like that first story where it's like a poorer family, the second they're richer, and then the third I think is probably the most famous, because the ending and a little dance that Sophia Loren does is one of the most famous moments in movie history. I really like the first and the third story in this. The second one is definitely my least favorite of all of them, but it is such an Italian feeling film. And once again, when I think of Italy, I think of like sunsets and warmth and like end of the summer. And so you can see this list definitely has a bent, but I would love to know what kind of movies you all watch this time of year. What feels like an end of August, beginning of September kind of a movie to you? I'm from New York, so school doesn't start for us until into September, whereas I know a lot of other places it starts sort of in the middle of August. So maybe for me, I'm still in the summer. Not everybody is, but I am 1,000,000% still in that summer mode. But there's that feeling of the end. And so I hope you think these movies kind of fit that criteria. I would love to hear if you have seen any of these, which other ones you would recommend. Anything else on Kanopy? I feel like Kanopy is putting on more and more and more movies, like rapidly, more than I've ever seen, which is nice to see. Some of them are not the best looking movies, but they definitely have a lot of content, and they don't have a lot leaving, which is really nice also. So let me know if there are any movies on there that you also feel like would fit this list. So thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.